Thank you very much, Chief. And I would like to thank the community for inviting MK to be part of your process. And hopefully we can contribute in answering as many questions as you may have here today for us. Basically, before I move into the feasibility as such, just to explain a little bit the MK role when it comes to school constructions. As you may know or may not be aware, MK is a central organization, and our board of directors is 12 out of 13 chiefs in Nova Scotia. We have a grant agreement with Indian and Northern Affairs Canada, and basically our grant agreement is for 5 years at the time. And each 5-year grant agreement contains a budget for school construction. Years ago, each community that had a school used to get their own replacement money for whenever their school would be due to be replaced, usually within 40 years, they would have the money set aside to replace it. However, during the first 5 years of our agreement, we quickly realized that we weren't building any new schools that way, and it would take a long time to really take advantage of those funds. So in 2003, the MK board pooled each chiefs that had a school pooled all of their money, the replacement money, into one pool that we manage at the MK. And usually that pool for a 5-year period is usually around $5.56 million. So at the beginning of each new 5-year agreement, which is now, because our agreement expires March 31st, 2016, we're going to negotiate within the next year, we come together and identify the negotiation priorities for the board. And capital, school construction, is always one of the key priorities with our board of directors. So right now, we had a commitment from the board to build a school in Pictou Landing, and other communities came along and say, well, we would like to look at the feasibility of building schools in our own community. So we had a few other communities that came forward, and Buttonkick is one of those communities that came forward. So what the board has done, the board has provided these communities with some funding to be able to do a feasibility study. Now, by doing a feasibility study does not guarantee that there will be a school. It's all dependent on the amount of money we're going to have. In the past, with the money that we've had, which is about $5.56 million in 5 years, we had Aboriginal Affairs and Northern Development Canada that came and matched the dollars, so we were able to do more projects. So again, we're hoping that we will be able to negotiate more funding. So we have $5.56 million, and once the board looks at the feasibility study, there may be a need for, maybe $10, $12 million by the time the communities are ready to put their plans forward. We don't have that, but we're hoping to use the feasibility study of all the communities to try to build a case to get the federal government to leverage the $5.5 million that we have so we can build all the projects. So I just wanted to make that point clear that although there may be a feasibility study that will say, yes, it's feasible to build a school in our community, it cannot happen within the next 5 years if we cannot leverage the funding to do so. But the first step is the feasibility study, and the MK the board of directors are strongly supporting that Buttonkick does and move forward with a feasibility study to do your school. Now, the feasibility study itself, it is quite an intensive process. And basically, the bolts and nuts of the feasibility study, it's to show that is something that the community wants. The feasibility study has to prove that, yes, the community of Buttonkick as a whole would like to have a school in their communities. So that's priority number 1 of the feasibility study, and that's one of the reasons why you're all here today, to try to gauge if that is something that the community really wants to do. And there's a lot of reasons why communities decide to move ahead to build their own schools and have their own schools. And from experience and from the school projects we had before, the number one reason is usually to bring the language and bring the culture back in the community. The second reason is usually because parents and or youth are not satisfied with the service that the provincial school system is providing. Those are usually two of the main reasons why communities build schools in their communities. So that's the number one item. It's to show that that's something the community wants and to make sure the needs of the communities are met in terms of a school. The next item, the next part of the feasibility study basically is to say, okay, we know we want a school. How many students, how big would the school be, and what grades are we going to offer, and how many students would be attending this school? So in the feasibility study, the consultant has to show how many students will be attending the school during the 5th year of enrollment. So say, for example, it's 60, 65 students, whatever the number may be, which at the current time, when we look at your current nominal roll and the current number of students that are in the school system, there's about, from K to 6, there's about 65 full-time equivalent students that are attending school in Buttonkick, in the provincial, between the provincial and the band-operated K4 kindergarten that you have. So, but when you do your projections for 5 years, it may be slightly less, maybe slightly more. We don't know. But you have to show that in your feasibility study, because the size of the school you're going to end up getting, the amount of money you're going to end up getting, is going to depend on how many students you're going to have in that 5th year of enrollment in your new school. The next thing that takes place is to basically identify 3 possible optional sites or options for providing service. And usually the existing situation is usually an option, is to do nothing and leave things the way they are now. And then 2 more options, which are usually 2 optional sites. And in choosing the 2 optional sites, there's a whole lot of things that has to be taken into consideration. One of the things is to build a K-6 school, you need to have 5 acres of land. So where in your community do you have 5 acres of land where you can build a school? Once you've chosen that site, or look at those 2 other sites, you have to say, okay, what about the availability of sewer system? What about the availability of water? What about the quality of the soil? How much excavation will be required? How remote is the area from the students? And only you in your community know the demography and the lay of the land in your community. So you have to come up with, 2 possible sites, and then for each one of the options, you have to look at the pros and cons. And there has to be a cost-benefit analysis for each one of those options. Once that's done, there has to be a preliminary environmental assessments. So for the sites that you have chosen as optional sites, is there anywhere in the records where there's any traces of chemical in the soil or anything like that? So usually an engineer will look at existing data to see if there is any signs of environmental impact for the construction of a new school in either of your optional sites. The next thing that has to take place is basically, okay, you've sat down, you know the needs, you know what optional sites are, you've done the cost-benefit analysis. Then you start to look at basically, okay, I have a rough model and a plan of what the school would look like. And then you say, okay, how long will it take roughly to build that school? What are the steps? What's the timeline? Most of our schools are usually built over, I would say from planning to end, probably about 2 years, 2.5 years for full school constructions. Okay. And then how much would it cost? And what will be the cash flow? Say you're going to build your school over 2 years. What are the steps? What's the timing? And what will take place each month? What phase of the project will take place each month? Rolling it up in a per year basis. How much are we going to need to build that school over 2.5 years as per the project management timeline? Once that's decided, and we have all that, and MK will review all the cost and the sizes and everything, what almost always happens, we never get enough money as per the school space accommodation standards to build a full school. The community always has to kick in some dollars. So then, say for example, your school will cost $4 million as per your feasibility study, and say as per the INAC school space accommodation standards, you're allowed to have, just for example, 3.5 million. The community has to show how are they going to come up with the difference. Contributions from a COA or whatever it is, but to show where the funding will come from. If it is a bank loan, we will need copies of the documents and prove that, yes, there is going to be a loan to bridge the difference. And then we bring the feasibility study to the board of directors, to the chiefs. And basically, it is the board of directors that decide whether or not in your feasibility study you're able to prove, to show that there is a need for a school, and also the size of the school and what the enrollment will be. Once that's the other thing that has to take place parallel to the feasibility study, basically, it's to look at the notional budget. Your budget would be different than what it is now if you have a school, because all the dollars that you're paying to the provincial school system, when those students come back to your community, there will be an amount of money that will come for each one of those students. We've done the budgets. They've been presented to some of your chief and council and director of education. And basically, your team has to sit down and say, this is going to be our budget. With this budget, and say a program from K to 6, what can we afford to deliver? How many classrooms are we going to have? What will be the student-teacher ratio? Basically, we have the school. Can we afford to run it? And usually, the question that always comes up is, do we have to send our children to the unreserved school or the community school? Well, the answer is yes, because if the students, say with 65 students, that, like you're saying they're all going to come here, this is how the budget is built. Say in 1 year you have 30 students that decide to go to the provincial school system, well, you can't afford to run your school. So you have to make sure that to get to school is one thing, but to keep your school running and to meet provincial guidelines and to meet your own needs for Mi'kmaq language and curriculum, and to be able to negotiate some proper contracts with teachers and retain your teachers for your new school, you have to be able to maintain a certain level of budget to move forward. The last thing that I'd like to add, and maybe after that, John Jerome from MK or Brian or any other, just feel free to add any other comments, is that there's going to be 2 teams once the school goes ahead. Well, you have a team now, the education team, which basically is the team that will probably continue to work together if you move forward with this process to decide on the layout of the school, the colors of your school, the theme of the school, and all of that. But there's also a project management team where if you go ahead with the school, there'll be a call for tender to get a project manager, a qualified engineer, to basically administer and supervise the school construction project. On the project management team, there's usually a few members of chief and council. There's a project manager himself. There's usually the architect, my French is coming into play. The architect will be part of the team on the planning and design phase. There's probably your finance person will be part of the team or should be part of the team, your chief financial officer. And there has to be a member of MK that's on the team as well. And we would ask the communities to forward us a list of your education committee and your project management team. Did I forget anything, John? Did I forget anything? Okay. But I can answer questions after too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Loretta. Thank you so much for that. It gives you a good overview of what is a feasibility study, why we're undertaking a feasibility study, and the central question there is suggesting is, do we want a school? That's the key element there.